Morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Yeah, put yourself in. Do not disturb.
I did.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Welcome to Books We've Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason,
I'm Nicole.
and today is our last episode of Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. Not Gillian Anderson. Different.
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 As far as I'm concerned, maybe equally awesome. I don't know. If this is your first time joining the show, or even if you are a returning member, please make sure this is the video you really mean to be watching. We talk about the book as if you have also read up to where we've read. And for this book, that means the whole thing. We are ready to talk about it all. So if you need to go back an episode to catch the first half of the book, it's playlisted for you. We are also on YouTube Music as a podcast, and we can also take the discussion off of YouTube onto Goodreads. And the description box is currently empty, but at some point I will update it, and you can just click the little link or copy and paste the link from the description box and head over to the Goodreads.
Yep. We've got a lot of new subscribers over the last week or two, so if you are new here and you don't know, you can go back and take a look at all of our playlists and find some other books that we've read, and then you can play along with those videos. And we will be putting out the syllabus immediately after this video for our next video, which is
Next book,
which is All the Light We Cannot See by, I think, John Doerr.
Doerr. Yeah. Doerr.
Doerr. Which is also now a Netflix movie as of like yesterday.
Or a limited series, perhaps?
I don't know.
Yeah, so we're excited about that.
Yeah.
If you're joining us live, we really hope that you participate in the live chat just with your, with your guesses, or, in this episode with how your guesses panned out, what you thought about the book and all that stuff. And if you're watching the replay, we really hope that you participate in the comment box. We love getting your comments. We love hearing kind of you experiencing the story and your take on it. We love reliving these books that we've read. So even if it's, 5 years from now and you're just now catching this book, please add your comments to the comment box. We love being able to just kind of experience a book with other people the first time. So, and this one especially, we just had such a good time reading this book.
Yeah, so we both finished reading like last Sunday after our show. We just started reading and just didn't stop. I think I read through dinner.
Yep.
We
just read it.
We just kept going, and we were making faces at each other. And there were a lot of drops and a lot of twists and turns here. So
yeah, and some people are sounding off in the comments, like their guesses were correct.
Yeah.
Like Peggy was correct. Ryan is Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to say this is. So not counting Deception Point, this is the second mystery that we've read. Because I would say that it was this and The Retreat. Those are like the two true mysteries that I think we've read.
And Silent Patient.
Oh, and The Silent Patient. Fair enough. Okay. But with this one and with The Retreat, the author just like did not give us enough information for us to be able to figure out what was going on. So like Peggy figuring out that Ryan is Kelly, those are all guesses that we could make, and everybody kind of made some guesses. But there was some pieces, like how the criminal enterprise worked. There was just no reveal on the nuts and bolts of it until the end.
Right.
And so what I like about it was like you couldn't just figure it out.
But we figured it out as Jen was figuring
Correct,
it out. She couldn't figure it out the first time around either. It all went unnoticed by her. And I love the way that we saw her pick apart these pieces of the mystery. Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice that the first time this happened.
Yeah.
But here we are, and especially the element of her dad's involvement.
Yeah.
What a heartbreak,
Yeah. So there is a line somewhere in the book about how after something happens, you can always look back and you can say like, "Oh, I predicted that," and it's funny because that's just the author talking to us, really. Because every time I say that, I was like, "Oh, but like I knew the dad was involved.
Yeah.
The moment that she talks to the dad about Kelly, and he's like, "Oh, I don't really want to talk about that." I'm like,
and he's a straight up guy. I was like, okay. You know what's going on. Yeah. I didn't understand to what extent, the dad was involved. And it's so sad, his involvement was to provide for his family. You know, he
Yeah.
did it out of desperation. And I think that's so sad. And that is how a lot of people wind up involved in crime is,
Sure.
you know, they couldn't make ends meet the proper way. And they got into this, but they didn't have an exit strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they ended up getting in trouble.
You know, the one thing that none of us guessed, as best I can remember, but in hindsight seems really obvious, is that Cleo is the missing baby. I don't remember anybody saying that one. I know I didn't, but like obviously that's what we should have been. They might not have told us it was a girl for like a long time,
Yeah.
and so maybe that part was missing.
I mean, I had an audible, like,
Yeah.
moment when that happened.
Well, even when Ezra is like at the shipping yard talking to whatever version of Kelly that was, and he says like, "Of course I didn't let them put the baby on the boat." That's the point where you're supposed to be like, "Oh, I got it."
No, but even Ryan was just like, "Where's the baby?"
Yeah, I didn't
Like,
even figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good one. And I also thought so. I really like how this book had, you know, mysteries on mysteries on mysteries, and twists and turns, and the twists had turns. But I do love that, for the most part, the ending for this family wrapped up very sweetly and
It was very positive,
wholesome,
yeah.
and that was kind of a relief. You know, like sometimes your inner evil is just like, it needs to be terrible and everyone needs to be miserable.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's just nice to see a win.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really sweet that the family had that hug at the end. They all were together in the right place in the
Yeah.
right time. And the dude the Todd ended up with not Cleo.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool too, you know. I
It
mean,
was really-
teenage love,
yeah.
give me a break, but it was sweet.
It was nice that he got to keep his girl. It was nice that like Jen realized that Kelly was really looking out for her the whole time, and that they ended up as Ryan and Ryan and Jen or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, on top of that, the probably the best part is that she doesn't remember. You know, she wakes up the day
She
after.
gets one day
Yeah.
to put all the pieces together,
Yeah.
and then it's just as it should be.
Yeah. Because I can't imagine the PTSD you would have,
It's a lot of trauma.
like knowing that like at any time you might create this 1,000 times more than your body weight thing, right? Like
Yeah.
at that point, I'm just eating to make sure that it's harder to send me back in time.
Like, wow, you really put on some weight.
Yeah, yeah, this is a safety
On
mechanism.
purpose. Yeah. But meanwhile, like by the end of it, poor Connor and Connor's mom, what was her? Is that even their
Yeah.
names?
So I have a theory about this, and I'm not sure everybody agrees, but you know, they keep talking about a time loop, and this is obviously not a loop. Like it goes backwards for her for some time, and then she goes back, and that's fine. But then we get this little piece about her friend and her son Connor, and how now she's going back in time. And my theory about this is that the only thing that can get Connor's life back to the way it was in the original world that we had is for her to somehow make that baby, Cleo, get kidnapped, because that was the only thing that sent us into this alternative world. And so my thing is that I do think this is a time loop, and it's the moms swapping off backwards and forwards, like the problem. And that's it. And it's all about who takes Cleo or what happens. And I'm not convinced that Connor's mom would like just willingly let a baby be kidnapped, but maybe she does something that then causes the baby to be kidnapped,
Right.
because that seems to be
Right.
the inflection point.
And when it comes down to it, it's her kid or it's my kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to protect your own,
Yeah.
you know, unless you're clever enough to protect both.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and who knows if Connor's mom is clever enough to even figure out how to handle this time loop situation. I mean, if it was me, I would just be like, well, I guess this is my life now, and I'm just going backwards in time, Benjamin Button style.
Yeah.
See you at 0.
Yeah, we have been talking about that, how if we were going back in time, we would just have, like, I don't know what I did one Saturday ago
Nope.
at all.
I remember what I did yesterday,
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah.
mostly.
Mostly.
But yeah, no, there's no way I'd be smart enough to do this. But speaking of smart, I really liked the relationship between the scientist and her. You know,
Yeah.
even though he never remembered her each time, obviously, because he's going forwards,
Yeah.
as one does. But finally, he's like, okay, here's the code. You know, tell
Yeah.
me who my imaginary friend was, or whatever
Yeah.
the thing was, and how well that worked. You
Yeah.
know. He's like, all right, well, here we are. And then, you
Yeah.
know, here's how we... So, well, I guess nothing changed based on any individual day. Only the change that fixed the problem.
Yeah.
set off the future. But how neat that he got to be there
Yeah.
and be her little guide.
Well, what's unfortunate is that Jen doesn't even remember enough to now go to him and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I went back in
Right.
time and then came back, and you were instrumental to that, and I just want to say thank you." Like, she can't even say thank you to him, which he doesn't care because he doesn't know. But that would have been a nice little moment.
Yeah. There's a lot of like I kind of wish that I could be in this world and just go explore, see the different changes that happen because of this baby not getting kidnapped.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of like little pieces that I'd like to know about.
Yeah. Well, and Peggy mentioned whenever it comes out that Nicola was a cop, and I didn't see that coming either, because she wasn't mentioned in most of our like little cop things,
Yeah, because she was undercover already.
Yeah.
And
And then my whole theory about the cops manipulating him to maybe like investigate his own brother, Nick, what was it? Ryan as Kelly or whatever. And then it just, that wasn't really true because by the point that we meet Ryan, Kelly is already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I also had some audible gasps as I figured out all that stuff.
So there's still one thing I don't really understand, and that is why was Kelly going back to, what was that, his childhood home? Where there's the photo of him and somebody who looks like him? Like, what is that?
No, so that was the undercover home he had, like the home that Ryan stayed in while he was undercover. It was a 1 bedroom, and then everything else was in one room. And I think he just had a picture, because he was just.
But that was like 30 years ago, and they never like repurposed the house. No, that was his mom's house. That's what it is. Because there's this conversation about how he had to like keep off the land registry.
Right.
That must be his mother's house.
Okay.
That's and he goes back.
But is that where he did his undercover living?
No.
Oh.
See, they kind of mentioned that as like a flat, maybe, or like an apartment.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So that must be his mother's house, because that's part of the story, that he can't inherit the property with his real name because that could lead people to figure out who he really is, and that's why he had to kill himself off as Ryan. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but that now that I'm thinking about it, that must be what's going on.
Yeah. How sad. Yeah. And like the scene when they lived in their little like travel trailer in the valley, and he goes to the bathroom and cries because he misses his mom.
Yeah, poor buddy. But he leaves that whole world like for Jen, which is cool. But like they just met, it all seems very rash. But like that's fine, whatever.
Some people, some people do.
Yeah.
Some people do. Peggy says I kept wondering how she fit in all of it, but when it finally came out, she was glad. And and she had like mind blown when Nicola was exposed as a cop. Yeah.
One part I laughed about that is real for those of you who don't know was whenever Jen goes to visit Joseph in prison, and he says there's a storm coming and all the inmates in here are about to act up. That's real.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if they can't even like see outside.
Yeah, just the energy in the air.
You get hype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High schoolers do too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a full moon as well. It's just, they're riled up. Yeah. So Peggy says that Joseph is the intersection of all of this. If he could get caught at the beginning of it, then none of this would happen, and maybe the loops would stop.
But they had to. Yeah, but like somehow the only reason they did catch him or didn't catch him is because of the baby. And I agree that maybe they could have moved faster in the past. Maybe this was just the first point that they get to. Maybe getting Cleo not kidnapped is the first point at which something can change. But it's possible that there are other points further back that we just don't make it to because this one is the one. Okay, that's possible.
Yeah. So I did continue to enjoy the exploration of mama trauma, just how traumatic it is to be a mother and all the responsibility and the pressure and the guilt and everything. That continued very thoughtfully throughout the rest of the book. And, the point where she is back in that travel trailer with, like, Todd's maybe 6-month-old or something, and she just, Todd was trying to, like, grab a Kit Kat or something, and she was, like, it shocked her how frustrated she got so quickly with him. But then she, like, calmed down, and she called Todd's name, and Todd, like, turned around all googly-eyed for Mom, and it was in that moment that she realized, like, She was a fine mom.
Yeah.
Everything was fine. All this doubt that she's had her whole adult life, that she's just been
Yeah.
messing him up,
Yeah.
and that she has caused something, or that he has caused something, to cause this murder. That moment, that's such a relief, I think, for all the mom readers out there. Like, they're supposed to be, again, like, it's a comment the author's making to the people.
Right.
The author's making that.
Yeah.
Remember when your baby was a baby and looked at you with nothing but love? Like, even if you felt like you weren't connected to the baby, because bonding is tough sometimes and you're hormonal and it's crazy. Yeah, you took care of your baby, and your baby loves you.
I really saw that line as the point of the book, and not the mystery, and not the time travel, and not Cleo, and not Todd.
Yeah.
But the point of the book was Jen coming to terms with
her motherhood.
With her motherhood, yeah. And that, she wasn't going back in time to solve Todd's crime. She was going back in time to have that realization.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just had to solve the crime to be able to get back.
Yeah.
But that maybe even, like, in whatever weird way causes this thing to happen, that Todd murdering somebody anyway happens so that she can have this realization,
Yeah. I mean, every day into the past, you saw Jen embracing something from Todd and from Kelly that she took for granted the first time around. But it was, whether it was Todd's, his grades, his A or B, or like remembering, oh yeah, the Call of Duty phase when we would run around the house with Nerf guns or whatever, or the West Wing phase where we were like, binge watching the show together. All these moments, she felt like she just worked through his whole childhood.
Yeah.
But she didn't.
Yeah.
She really was very present. She was dismissive of him sometimes, or laughed at him sometimes, and she changed that.
Yeah.
She had a chance. She had a second chance, and that's what most moms really wish they had. Like, oh, I wish I could go back and do that different.
Yep.
And she got a chance to do that.
There's the like the epilogue or whatever. I mean, not the part where Connor's mom goes back in time, but there's a part at the end of at least our copy where the author talks about how she came up with this idea, and she talks about how it was a COVID book, and and it was just something she did over the course of the pandemic, and it reminds me, like, the realizations that Jen goes through, that Gillian McAllister is kind of telling us, like, hey, you should think about these things, are definitely things that I experienced over COVID, where I really thought about, like, how much I'm focused on my work and how I could detach myself and just slow down. And obviously the pandemic was terrible for most people, right? I'm on board. But anything that we can take out of that situation, anything that we could have learned is helpful. Yeah. And I think that I learned a similar thing through that experience as Jen learns through this one, where it's about the balance of things, and maybe even not the balance of things, just not the work part.
Yeah.
So.
And honestly, I mean, we've all gotten caught up in a metaphorical time loop. When you ask anybody about, what happened in the last 5 years, there's about 3 years of it that's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, that was 3 years ago? Because we just merged in two shutdowns and
all the
or
markers
whatever.
that marked time didn't happen.
Yeah.
Birthdays and the New Year's and the Christmases.
It's all very confusing.
Yeah.
And we're like, I don't
That's
know.
interesting. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was just last year. Just earlier, I was like talking about, a family photo, and I was like, oh, well, I wore this last year. That was 3 years ago. Didn't know I had my clothes for that long. Yeah.
Man, I got this one friend who's an older guy, and he can tell you that, like, on May 13th of 1952, he was at X place, and that he's the kind of guy who can go back in time and be okay.
Yeah, the fact that Jen could do this, she's like, there's a tomato in that sandwich. What? I don't even...
I swear I've never lived this day before, right? Like, that's how I would be.
I can't even tell you right now what today is. I know it's November something. Maybe the 4th.
I think it's the 5th.
5th. Yeah, see, I don't even know. Crazy. Crazy. Speaking of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so, when I, in present day Nicole, thinks back to 2003, the world was, a little different, right?
Why are we picking 2003?
Well, because she went to 2003.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
When I think back on 2003, I don't see it as being, like, that different, right? Like, it wasn't that different.
It's pretty different.
But then when she was in 2003, and then kind of looking forward to how much it's going to change, that really, like, flipped my brain upside down. Like I felt my brain go floop. And I was like, whoa, like it really was a lot different. Like I had a phone that had internet, but it was not a smartphone.
Really?
Yeah. Oh wait, 2003? No, 2007. Yeah, by then I had one.
It's like,
no,
I think we had dial-up still in 2003.
In 2003, I had a Nokia. It was yellow. It was this big. Yeah, no, it did not have internet. That's right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I didn't have a phone.
I probably still had a little pager too in 2003.
2003 was the whenever you
you still had to dial up. Yeah.
Internet came in an envelope with a CD and it said AOL on it, right? 10,000 free hours or whatever.
Gosh, I mean, how?
I know, crazy.
How wide? I mean, like our cars have internet now.
YouTube wasn't out in 2003. I'm pretty sure. I think it was a 2005 or 2006 thing.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
People did E-Bombs World back then. Remember that?
Oh my gosh, when she had to look something up on the internet and she pulled up Ask Jeeves. Oh, I used Ask Jeeves like my first year in college. Very funny.
Yeah.
I loved Jeeves. He was so cute. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Okay, something came through on the chat. You panicked if you ever hit the world button. Yeah, $10 gone. Yeah. Yes, on the first. Yes, my Sony Ericsson had the little world button on it. That was the internet, and you could like pull up a map, you know, if you needed to like drive or whatever. But that was. Yeah. Dollar signs flying. Jeeves knew nothing, Peggy said. Jeeves let her down.
Well, I mean, like, and this isn't a show about the history of the internet, but like, we're at the point now where we're talking about how access to the internet might be like a human
basic
right.
Human right. You cannot access your Social Security without the internet. Yeah. You cannot pay your bills without the internet.
Yeah.
It's all. How many of us have dollars? Literally, our money is over the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, that was it.
It's just so. This book just gave me a lot of like reflective moments. Even though I was like rushing to finish it, I really wanted to like know the story. All these details were so well thought out. The author really did a great job.
Yeah, I actually, I feel like it probably wasn't Peggy. It might have been Shelby. Somebody was saying that maybe we should have made a map of like the time, and I thought about doing that.
A little timeline.
Because I thought that'd be kind of cool. Like what else? Like what was happening in our world in 2003 at this day? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, could not tell you. Also cracked me up when she had made it back to the point before she met Kelly. And she woke up and she immediately knew, like, I'm 20. And she, like, ran in front of the mirror. She's like, I gotta know.
Yeah. And she had her brain in her brain. I've often thought about that. How if I could go back and do college again at, like, 18, but know what I know now. Number one, I don't want school at all. But it'd be fun. I could have fun. I'd just skip class, but I could have fun.
Don't send me back. I like where I'm at.
Man, so I had a dream the night that last Sunday, I read this whole second half. And then I went to bed and had a dream that not only was Kelly Ryan, but Jen was Kelly. And there were so many reveals that I just mixed it all up in my head. So. Yeah,
Peggy said Shelby said the timeline thing. Where is Shelby? I haven't seen her pop across the screen yet this morning.
Busy.
Yeah, I miss you, Shelbs.
So
do you go by Shelbs? You do now.
Again, so this was a book that was recommended by a friend that we've never heard of, and this was really good.
It was good.
So I know we've talked about doing some more by the guy who wrote The Retreat, but maybe we check this author out again as well.
Yeah, she's got
for some short books.
Stuff. Yeah, my Audible is recommending all kinds of stuff from Mark Edwards.
Yeah.
And Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I almost hit the use my token or whatever it is. I was ready for it. Dining in the dark in St. Petersburg. Oh, that's fun. She'll have to tell us how she spent her winter vacation when she gets back. Let's see. Okay, what else do I have in my notes? What other things did I live? Oh, okay. So she's going back in time. She kind of reminds herself, like, focus on what you're actually trying to do. Don't be trying to change everything. But she did have the opportunity to save her dad.
Yeah.
I got really choked up over
kind of. That was one of those things where, like, it was inevitable, right? And it's sort of the same lesson that she learns with Todd, where you were a great mother, but this bad thing still happens and it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
And like your dad died and you might could have stopped it then, but the next minute there was this thing that could have happened, and the next minute and the next minute, and it's all just sort of inevitable.
Yeah. But it was sweet though that she did, again, the things that she got to kind of embrace and enjoy the moment, going to the office and seeing her dad there, and she just missed that, even though she learned that he was a
Well, and the most interesting part to me about that interaction was she goes and she's there for his death. And then she wakes up and it has lived through this trauma of him dying. But like now it's 3 years before, and by the way, he's a crook. And like having to deal with all that.
Yeah. And that's a real theme too, is, you you make people better in your mind.
Yeah.
And you kind of create this legacy
Yeah.
of people, and we really hope that we don't learn enough about the people we love to tarnish that
Yeah.
legacy.
Either you die a hero or live long enough to be a villain. sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he got a chance to die hero the first time around.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a villain.
No, not really.
He enabled some really terrible things to happen,
When they mentioned that the law firm had a flood, I was like, this is important. This is weird, right? Like
Yeah.
who puts that in a book randomly? Just like, oh yeah, and that happened.
There was something else too that was mentioned, and I was just like, this isn't lining up. And
Yeah.
They were like, man, we were really struggling, and then all of a sudden, all that money started coming in, and I was like, money don't come from nowhere, baby. We saw in Well Met that we only see the positives when people die. Way to throw back to Well Met, maybe brownie points. This book also, I was erasing the pages in my notebook, and I saw some notes on the retreat, and I had talked about mom guilt in the retreat as well.
Yeah.
Her, feeling guilty over her daughter going missing and all that stuff.
Yeah. I meant to Google mom traum and see if that was a thing that people say, but if it's not, I hope that someday in like 20 years, that's what this show is famous for, is that the Wikipedia for mom traum as a genre says that it was first used
We coined
on
it.
books we never read.
Because like now that we have verbalized it, I see it a lot.
Yes.
Gosh, I'm rereading Harry Potter, the Half-Blood Prince. Sorry, gosh, I was like, what is the name of that one? And Draco's mom. There's some mama trauma there too.
Look, I mean, if we wanted to, we could do a whole episode on that. We could even bring Dune into it. And
Some mama trauma there too.
yeah, what Jessica has to go through with the
It's my next
Cuisinart Snack Attack.
dissertation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cuisinart Snack Attack. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Okay, Peggy says she does not agree that it was about mom guilt and Todd. She saw it as everyone in her life lying to her, and she couldn't see that it wasn't about her and Todd. She had to find out when she woke up. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I do think that was kind of a common thing. It was like, all these people have their own business that they're worried about. Before we even knew that Kelly was Ryan, was an undercover cop, was protecting his family, I was like personally offended when Jen just decides that because she doesn't understand what Kelly's doing and he is lying to her, it must be bad. And she immediately became upset about it. And while I understand that as like a gut reaction, hang on. And I'm sure there's a reason for this, and like he could have been just a pathological liar and just gaslit her the whole time. I get that too. But I wanted him to have the opportunity to explain. And he does and says, you don't want to ask questions about this. But again, he's trying to protect her. And
But her reaction was so severe because the consequence of all of it was so severe. She watched her son murder somebody. There is no scenario where you can't freak out about that and go to the extremist end of extreme.
But she has this benefit of knowing that she is supposed to go back so that she can understand, right? Like she believes this. There's no evidence for it, but she believes it and it works. That she's going back to understand why this happens. And then as soon as she finds out somebody's lying to her, she's just like, meh. I don't know, but because I do see Kelly as, I do generally see him as doing the right thing. I don't know, like, I guess he could have told her, I guess, but I mean, that's a tough call, especially because he had already lived so much of his life lying to her. And at some point, you might as well just keep going because it's not hurting anybody. So
Except that it is.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it was, but maybe.
It did. His son killed somebody.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's not Jen's fault. It's not his fault. I want this book, but from Kelly's perspective.
I think lying can just be the most damaging thing that you can do.
I'm not disagreeing that lying is not good.
And so, while he didn't need to disclose everything to her, there definitely should have been a point where he's like, okay, look, I stay low. I don't make connections with people. He's like, and there's a reason, and it's because I was part of a really crazy case, and it poses a danger to the family. And so I'm just going to keep flying under the radar, and I hope that you can understand. But he could have done that when they were like together for a year.
Maybe, but still, like, you're risking something, right? You have, like, from his perspective, you're risking the relationship by saying, like, I've been lying to you for a year. So then you're just like, I won't have that conversation today. And then the next day, you just don't have that conversation today. And then here you are with a 16-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how that happens. You know, he never consciously made the decision to just up and lie to her. He made the decision to protect her, and then it just kept going.
Well, maybe don't try to protect people so much. Maybe just be honest and people can protect themselves.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe.
Don't be a liar.
That too.
Was Joseph there the night? Was Joseph there that night to kill Jen or Kelly or Todd or everyone?
I think he was there to kill Kelly. And Todd kills him to defend his father. And that's why he doesn't tell anybody anything. I mean, he could have been there to kill everybody, right? Like, he could have absolutely taken out his revenge that way. But I was definitely led to believe that he was there to get his vengeance on Kelly because he's put all the pieces together on who Kelly is. Mm-hmm. Without understanding who Kelly is, he has no reason to kill Todd.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. And Sue was wondering that too. Yeah, so, like, there's some, like, the days before the murder, there's, like, little pieces that I kind of wonder, like, when did Todd go get a knife? Where did the knife come from?
Yeah.
And Kelly seemed to know about the knife when he saw it. How do you know a knife's never been used?
You can kind of tell. I mean, like, maybe a little bit. I mean, it's not, like, well used, perhaps.
Well,
right?
I mean, like, I know that you can tell the difference between a well used and a not well used, but how can you tell it has never been used?
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. Yeah, and I'm not sure that where the knife comes from is important, and maybe Kelly did give it to him.
Like, hey, you've gotten yourself into a situation, and did Kelly realize that Cleo was the missing baby?
Huh. I don't know.
Man, what a small world.
Yeah.
I kind of think if you want to, like, live under the radar, maybe you don't live in the place where you were a cop. Just stay in the valley. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Becky says maybe it was had the tag on it or still was in the difficult plastic, and that was what I was thinking, but I just didn't make the joke.
Good job, Peggy.
It doesn't cut yourself trying to get your own knife out.
Oh, man. That is a wound that takes forever to heal.
Yeah.
Plastic. Golly.
Yeah. Paper cut has nothing on
a plastic cut.
The plastic cut that you're trying to get, like, tools out of. For sure.
You can't even, like, cut it with the scissors without also cutting your hand while you're getting halfway through.
And you need, like, industrial scissors. Like, you need garden shears.
Yeah. You need those, like, kitchen shears that can, like, cut through bone.
Yeah. Ugh, gross. Don't say it.
I'm sorry, like chicken. You gotta hack a chicken sometime. Whatever. Yeah. So what else?
I think I've hit about everything that I honestly forgot my notes, but I have notes. Oh, wait, no, they're right here. That was such a journey.
Someone also mentioned that they liked the mantle decor today. It was nice. We have a nice little painting up there and some little hummingbirds. It is nice.
I think I hit all my notes.
Yeah, I enjoyed so many elements of this book. The mystery, loved it. The suspense, loved it. The lies, even though I hate lies, loved it. the little trip through like memory lane, and then like
Yeah.
the sentimentality of it, and it's just we all have times that we kind of wish that we could go back and maybe redo things or take something in a little bit better or understand more about a situation that we were in the past, and we can't.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing. Um, but it's just nice to see vicariously someone else do that, and then it didn't matter.
Yeah.
All these things did not matter. I mean, the whole the sum is greater than the parts, right? Like
Yeah.
the end result is really the most important part.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think
don't know.
this is again a book that I would not have chosen. Like if I was walking through Barnes and Noble or something, I would not have stopped and picked this up.
I would have.
But that's what's so cool about this book club is,
Yeah.
all the stuff that I've read now and that I would have read before.
Right.
And I've been really going into so many of our books lately with rather low expectations. Just like not like like I usually enjoy things, but I'm like, this will be fine. We're gonna read it, and I don't expect it to like blow my mind. And I'm loving all of them.
My only expectation is to be entertained or
Yeah.
to learn something.
But I've really enjoyed. Really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the retreat.
Allison brings up such a good point too. Like, of course, you want to go back and kind of relive moments or whatever, but you learn from all those moments. You have to have those bad times.
Yeah,
and those mistakes.
There's a fan fiction somewhere, right, about all the mistakes Jen makes now as a parent because she doesn't know all the things she.
Right,
because now that everything is erased, she has a life that ends up the way she wants to, but she also has a life that does not have the lessons that she's learned. And like, what does that look like? Is she still a workaholic? Like, what does she look like as a person?
Right. And I think that's a big part of the lesson. She did get the opportunity to go back and take in those moments she missed and relive, but she doesn't get to remember that she did all that, and
or like, what's Kelly like as a father? Because now he's a cop, and those dudes are busy.
Yeah.
And before he was like a painter that was off the grid, and so he was like around a bit, know. And it wasn't like he was like running away and hiding out and doing crimes for 30 years or 18 years or whatever. He was this sketchiness was only something that got reintroduced in the last several weeks since Joseph got back out.
Brand new.
Everything he was doing beforehand was above board as best we know. And so how is he as a father now?
Right. And it seemed fine. Any family that has a group hug moment, they're doing all right.
Yeah.
I ain't never seen a family do a group hug if they weren't willing to group hug.
I have. Not here. But I have.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Weird. I thought it was sweet. Even along the way, the ways that Todd shared with his mom. I mean, I could see it as an outsider. Like, this is a child who has a healthy relationship with his parents. Yeah. He's the only child, so he's a little too old for himself. His best friends are his mom and dad, and that makes him grow up so fast. But I mean, there was just so many sweet things, like the donut thing. Like, you want your own or you want to buy, and like, it's just sweet kid stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was just so wholesome.
True.
Yeah.
And to Peggy's point, like, is the dad doing sketchy stuff? I mean, like, we don't know. And now that Kelly is a cop, what if he's like a corrupt cop and we didn't see that coming? If you could go back in time and change things to assuage, is that how you say this word? Assuage? Your own guilt. And so you've changed things so that you don't feel bad about them in the future. Have you changed things to put people in a situation where they may feel bad? Right? And then what do you do? And there's no evidence that happens in this book, but I'm just saying, but we do have evidence that in this new world we have ruined Connor and his mom's life.
Right.
And Jen doesn't know that.
Right.
But
yeah,
if you could go back in time and change these things.
Yeah. And that's what we should be telling ourselves to make ourselves feel better about the fact that we can't go back and redo things. Sure. Like, we don't know how much good we've really done. We don't know how much bad we've really done. We've done the best that we could with what we had at the moment. And you're supposed to make yourself feel better by telling yourself that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you only had what you had, and you made the best choices you could.
Well,
if you change things, you're just pushing, harm off on someone else.
There's realistically no difference in asking that question about the past than there is asking about the future. If you could go back in time and change things to make yourself feel better, are you doing harm to other people? if I can do things in the future to change the way I feel bad about things now, am I doing harm to other people? And the answer is still yes.
Yeah.
Because of the way that this timeline works, we're still asking the same question.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. I love anything that is involved with time.
I don't, but this was fine. This was great.
Cool.
It was fun.
Yeah. Glad we did it.
Yeah. So what was it? Daylight savings time? That was the force that was strong enough to launch
Was it?
these moms back into whatever.
Is
so
it?
did anyone go? Is anyone in yesterday today? You know, wink if
Really?
you need help.
Was that what it said?
Yeah, it was both for yeah. Yeah, so great timing because it was daylight savings time here today. I'm yesterday. I'm in danger.
We should put a video. We should put a video up that's just like, okay, Nicole, if you wake up and it's yesterday, here's the things you need to do. Right? Just like leave a message to ourselves.
I don't know your phone passcode. I can't put the find my husband on your phone or whatever.
People using that's so sketchy.
People not using that. Maybe those are the sketchy ones.
For thousands of years, nobody has known where anybody was, and we all made it okay.
Have we? Have we made
No,
it okay?
no, we haven't. not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and our friends across the pond, their daylight savings time ended last week.
That's a mess.
I know, it's crazy.
We got to get our act together. This is not okay.
Oh no.
Well, I don't have anything else to say about this one.
I'm out.
Okay.
Other than just, I super loved it. So
Yeah,
I would
it
be
was a great
totally
time.
fine reading something else by Gillian again.
Yeah. We
Miss
should send
McAllister.
her an email and let her know we enjoyed
That we
it.
really loved the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why we aren't emailing the authors
We
more.
should.
But I mean,
We
like,
should
who
do
are
it
we?
more.
Yeah.
We're nobody, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
we
matter.
need AirTag implants. That can't end badly.
Not at all.
says Peggy.
Not at all.
I'm ready for the internet to just be like in my head so I can just be thinking about things.
Me too.
And just know stuff.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. We greatly appreciate you being here this morning. Go ahead, if you have not, get our next book, All the Light They Cannot See by, I think, John Dewar.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to put out our syllabus for that in the next few minutes.
Yeah, we are. Happy reading, guys. Thanks for joining us.
We will see you next week.
See you. Oh, yeah, and if you have any book recommendations, make sure you drop those in the comments below or on Goodreads.
I've got to lean all the way over today.
So sorry.
We need to find a clicker.
Bye.
Oh, my God.
We can't hit the button.
What's going
Are
on?
you still here? Oh, it's not working.
There we go.
There we are.